Have you ever had a conversation with someone who is so relentlessly positive that they refuse to hear anything negative? You know, the merry sunshine kind of person who's always smiling too hard and refuses to see anything but the bright side of life. The irrepressible optimist who always insists on finding good in everything. And aren't they irritating? I understand, they want life to be nice. They want the world to be cheerful. Of course, we all do. We all want to think that the world is full of good, kind, and generous people, that everyone who tries hard will succeed, and that the world is fair. We all want that. And it's Christmas season. It's all cheeriness all the time. We go from Halloween to Thanksgiving to Christmas without even skipping a beat, without taking a breath from one shiny, bright thing to another. We're not allowed to be sad or depressed, or we're supposed to be joyful all the time. Have a wonderful day. We all want to be happy. But I think sometimes people work too hard at trying to make everything bright and happy, full of flowers and sunshine. It's exhausting trying to keep everything bright and shiny. It takes a lot of emotional work to smile all the time. Sometimes we need to have permission to sit in the dark and just be. The fact is that not everything in life goes our way. Things fall apart. Our plans do not always go as we had hoped. Stuff happens. We fail. People disappoint us. The economy grinds us down. Even our own bodies betray us. The Bible is pretty honest about life. The stories in the Bible aren't about perfect people. They don't always end with happily ever after. In the Old Testament, Job loses everything. His flocks and herds are stolen. His property is taken. His houses all fall down. His children are killed. And he's left with nothing. And he sits there in dust and ashes, and he grieves his loss. And he has 3 friends who come, and they try to cheer him up. They say, Job's not so bad. God's going to make everything right. If you just do what God wants, everything's going to be okay. And he refuses to be comforted. He's not going to take that kind of false cheer. Until finally God speaks to Job. Or you take the Psalms. The Psalms run the whole range of human emotion, from great joy to sadness, anger, and indignation. The Bible is honest. Not everything turns out perfectly. In our gospel story today, we read what's called the little apocalypse in Mark. Jesus is in Jerusalem with the disciples. It's near the end of his life. And he says the day is going to come when there's going to be great suffering. And after that, the sun is not going to shine, the moon won't give its light anymore, and the stars are going to fall from heaven. In other words, things fall apart. It sounds like he's predicting the end of the world, but I think he's really talking about all kinds of endings. There's all kinds of endings in our lives. The ending of a relationship, ending of a job, ending of a period of good health. And when we experience endings, we need to sit with them and slow down. We need to give ourselves permission to sit in the dark for a while. We can put on a happy face and try to whistle past the graveyard if we want, pretend everything's fine, but that's not really being honest. Jesus tells a parable about a master who goes away, leaves his servants in charge, each with their own work, and they don't know when the master's coming back. And they're supposed to be patient and stay alert and be ready for the master. Sometimes waiting is all we can do. Now, the season of Advent, we're just starting Advent today. Season of Advent is a time of waiting. Waiting is downtime. Waiting is a time when we're not in control. And sometimes in our lives we just have seasons of waiting. You know, in music there's major keys and minor keys. Music in the major key is bright and cheerful, and it's comforting. It feels like you're home when you hear a major chord. You know, that feels like a good ending to a song. But music in the minor key is it's more mysterious, it's more ominous, it's unsettling, sort of puts you on edge. And much of our lives are lived in the major key. You know, things are going well, we are optimistic, life is good. But some days, some periods of our life are lived in the minor key. You know, we're more reflective and thoughtful. We ponder our lives. We review what has happened. We think about things. And it's not all hearts and flowers. So Advent is a season that's lived in the minor key. Advent's a time of reflection. Advent gives us permission to sit in the dark and listen to the silence. Now, the color of Advent is blue, and I wonder if that's because Advent is a time to sing the blues. You know, the blues comes out of the black experience. Years and years of sharecropping and poverty and discrimination and tar paper shacks. But Black Americans learned to sing the blues because it gave expression to what they were feeling. And it gave them comfort. It gave them some meaning and some purpose in their lives to be able to express how they felt. I wonder if maybe that's what Advent does too. You know, this is a time of year when we put tulip bulbs in the ground. And tulips have to have months and months down there in that cold, wet, dark soil before they will send out a shoot and have it come up and be a beautiful flower. They got to have that time in the ground. And that's Advent time. It's not all bad to sit in the dark. You know, some of my best thoughts have come when I'm sitting in the dark. And some of my most peaceful times have come from just sitting in the dark. I think our souls need some downtime. You know, our souls yearn for quiet and reflection and renewal. Advent is good for the soul. The promise of Advent is that even though it's dark now, Christ is coming. You say it in the memorial acclamation in the Eucharist. You know, Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again. To say that Christ is coming again may mean that he'll come at the end of the age when the universe finally runs down and stops. Or it may mean that Christ will come for us at the end of our days when we breathe our last breath. Or it may mean that Christ will come to us now when we need him most, in this life and in our present time. So I wish you a happy Advent. Or maybe I should say, I wish you a soulful Advent, a deep-rooted Advent, and a heartful